An election win is, well, it's a win. But a massive, truly landscape-shifting victory? That's a whole different ballgame. That's the kind of result that makes everyone, and I mean everyone, stop and ask, wait, how did that happen? In this explainer, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to deconstruct this thing piece by piece.
And I really want you to hang on to that word, massive. This wasn't some narrow, squeak-through win. Nope, this was a decisive, dramatic outcome that pretty much forces you to dig deeper and find out what was really going on under the surface.
So that brings us right to the heart of it, doesn't it? What specific factors, what combination of strategies could actually pull off a victory on this scale? Let's treat this like an investigation and follow the clues.
Okay, our first major clue points us toward one demographic in particular, women. It really seems like their vote was a huge, huge factor that gave the winning side its edge.
And this isn't just a theory, right? We've got the hard data to back it up. When you actually look at who showed up to vote, it's crystal clear. Women turned out in higher numbers than men. I mean, significantly higher. That adds a ton of weight to this argument.
So, what caused the surge? Well, analysis points to two very specific, very clever tactics. First up, there was a last-minute government scheme designed specifically to benefit women. And second, direct cash transfers that just so happened to land right as the campaigns were kicking into high gear. The timing there was, let's say, absolutely crucial.
So there's no doubt the women's vote was a powerful piece of this puzzle. But was it the whole story? Could a victory this big be built on just one demographic alone? The evidence seems to suggest there was a lot more going on.
All right, let's move on to our second clue, and this one brings us to another absolutely critical group, young voters. The support from this younger demographic wasn't just strong. By all accounts, it was overwhelming. In fact, many assert that their vote was another critical piece that helped the National Democratic Alliance, or the NDA, clinch this dramatic victory.
So now we've got two major forces at play. You see where this is going? It wasn't just one thing. We had at least two powerful currents pushing in the same direction. That targeted mobilization of women and this broad, overwhelming wave of support from young people.
But hold on, there's a third clue. And this one might just be the glue that holds it all together. It wasn't just about who was voting, but what they were voting for. And it all came down to a simple, powerful promise.
And the difference in messaging here was, well, it was stark. On one side, you had the Rashtriya Janata Dal, the RJD. They promised a government job for every single household. That's a significant promise, for sure. But then, on the other side, the Bharatiya Janata Party, the BJP, they countered with something even bigger, 1 crore government jobs.
1 crore. Let that sink in. That's 10 million. It is a huge, very specific and incredibly memorable number. In all the noise of a political campaign, a number that big just cuts through everything. It's easy to grasp, and it's even easier to repeat.
And yeah, many believe that this simple, incredibly ambitious pitch is what ultimately stole the day. See, while one promise was about distribution, the other was about pure scale, an appeal that you have to imagine resonated very, very strongly with that massive youth vote we were just talking about.
So, we've got our 3 clues laid out on the table. Let's put them all together now and see what this winning combination actually looks like.
So here it is, the big picture. This victory seems to have been built on 3 really distinct pillars. First, you had specific policies and cash transfers that successfully got women to the polls in higher numbers. Second, the campaign locked down overwhelming support from young voters. And third, they drove home a bigger, bolder, more specific jobs promise that just drowned out the competition.
And honestly, that's the real takeaway here. This wasn't a win based on some single silver bullet strategy. It was a powerful combination where each part reinforced the others. It created a result that was way, way bigger than the sum of its parts.
Which, of course, leaves us with one final, pretty important question to think about. When you successfully target key demographics with tailored benefits, and you pair all that with a simple, massive economic promise, have we just seen the creation of a new blueprint for winning elections? Now that is something to chew on.